Life processes. Today, we're going to discuss about the life. What is life? Where does it exist? Life is found in the living things. The things that have life are called living things. The things that do not have life are called non-living things. You have been studying about the living things and non-living things since class 3, 4, 5 from your lower classes. You are learning about living and non-living things. And you learned that living things have some characters. Based on that, we can say that this is a living thing and this is a non-living thing. When you were studying about the living things in your class 3 or 4, you learned that this is a rock which cannot move on itself, so it is a non-living thing. This is a dog which can run, shout, bark, jump, so it has some movements, so this dog is a living thing. In such a way, on basing certain features, you could distinguish which is living, which is non-living. Say, the first one, we take it as movement. Movement is one of the features on basing which you can decide whether a thing is living or non-living. You see so many examples around you. A boy running, a man shouting. Shouting in the sense, where do you find the movement? The movement in his lips, in his mouth, he is shouting. A dog barking. So we take the movement, a fish swimming, a bird flying, a horse running. So all these things, they have some movement, either in their body or their body, whole body is moved from one place to another place, locomotion. So this is one of the important characteristics of living things we consider. The second one, what do we see? Living things eat food, they take food. Living things, they take food. You see a cow chewing cud, a cow eating grass, a boy eating cookies, a boy eating his food. We all eat because we need energy to survive, to do our daily activities. So definitely we eat. So eating is also one of the features. We can take it, eating. And what else we take? What other features we take to decide whether a thing is living or non-living? Growth. Living things grow. That means increase in their size. Living things increase in their size from time to time. A small baby, a newborn baby, is grown to a kid. From the kid to an adolescent, from an adolescent to an adult. So movement is one of the features by which we can distinguish living and non-living things. And the second one is eating, taking food, growing. The third one, living things produce the young ones of their own kind. That is, reproduce. Reproduce. Living things produce the young ones of their own kind. Dog gives birth to a puppy. Man gives birth to a baby. Such a way, every living thing produces own kind. A new one or an young one of its own kind, we call it as reproduce, and it is one of the features we can take to distinguish between living and non-living things. And one more, response to stimulus. Stimulus. You go near a small cat or any other small animal, by seeing you, it will be frightened and run away. If you go near a chicken, it runs away by making some sound. It is frightened. It responds to the stimulus. It finds it is the danger. You are the danger coming to catch it. So it runs. In the same way, even in plants, we see that certain plants, they show response to the stimulus. If you touch the leaves of touch me not plant, the leaves contract, they show some movement and they show some response to the stimuli. So this is the another feature by which you distinguish living and non-living things. But you cannot say this is a living or this is a non-living thing based on any one of the feature here. Simply just by looking at the movement, you cannot say this is living and non-living. Because you see, we see the movements in animals, movements in their body parts, and movement of the animal from one place to another place completely, locomotion. But we cannot find any movements in plants. In plants, we cannot see any movements to our visible, they are not visible to our naked eye. Of course, the roots of plants may move in the soil, but it is very slow and not visible. So, by looking at that, you may say that I don't see any movements in this plant. So, can you consider the plant is a non-living thing because due to the absence of movement? No. So, in your lower classes, that is accepted, okay. You don't know what is happening in the cellular level or molecular level. So, there you have distinguished with the help of some movement, some features like movement, eating, growing, reproduction, response to stimuli. The second one, eating. You see the animals eating, visible to your naked eye, but plants, you don't find any plant eating directly. So you don't find any kind of movements, you don't find the plants eating directly except some parasitic plants. So you don't find that plants eating the food directly either through their leaves. They prepare their own food, but it is not visible to the naked eye. So on basing this, taking food, on basing this feature, you cannot distinguish this is living, this is not living. And growing, increasing in size. So this is also not the exact one to distinguish between living and non-living things. Living things grow, plants they grow in their size. Even animals grow in their size. Sometimes certain non-living things also grow in their size because of the climatic conditions, physical phenomena, they may increase in their size. But it doesn't mean that they have life. For example, we may observe the expansion of certain materials due to heat. So that means it increases in its size. But we cannot consider that is growth. We cannot consider that is that they have life. We cannot tell that they have life even though their size is increased. Sometimes certain materials absorb water and get imbibed, increased in their size. You cannot take it as growth. You cannot say that they have life in them. So we cannot take even this growth in its size, increasing in its size, it cannot be considered. And reproduction. So of course, we can consider this as it is a very important life process only possible in living things and response to stimulus. But even you see this reproduction or response to stimulus, sometimes, see for example, we have seen some animal like cow. A cow, whenever you go and touch the cow or you try to hit the cow with a stick, it responds. It moves away or it moves its head or tail. If you try to hit a dog with a stone, never do this, this is very dangerous. Just I am giving an example. The dog may bark at you or the dog may run away. So there is response and stimulus. You can take this response and stimulus. Yes, this is the character by which I can distinguish between living and non-living. But if the dog is sleeping, it is not aware that you have approached the dog, then there is no response. Will it mean that it is a non-living thing? If the dog is sleeping, it has not seen you, it didn't get your presence, then it is sleeping. It didn't respond. It doesn't mean that it is a non-living thing. So, apart from all this, of course, we can take these characters, these features to distinguish between living and non-living, but there are certain issues when you cannot explain alone with these features or characters, you cannot totally distinguish between living and non-living things. Somebody says that living things breathe. They breathe. That means there is a movement. You can feel the air coming in and coming out. Movement. But in plants, you cannot feel that there. Even plants breathe. So breathing is found in plants, but no one identifies, recognizes the breathing in plants. Even they breathe. So that is the one more thing. And the movements. Sometimes certain movements of living things are not observed, very minute, at small scale. Then can you say that if there is no movement, there is no life? Of course not. There will be movements which are very minute, which are not observed by us. And even though if anything has got very trace or minute movements, you cannot consider it as living. Say for example a material, a metal, it has some atoms in that. So in these atoms there are subatomic particles which are vibrating, moving. So there is a movement in this metal. So can you consider this metal as a living thing as it has got some kind of movement? No, it's not living, even though it has got minute movements. So at one particular level, you cannot use these characters to exactly distinguish between the living and non-living. So what exactly living is? How will you define that? How can you know that what is living thing? What essential characters a living thing must have? So let us come back to this movement. By taking that or by using the visible movements, we cannot distinguish the living and non-living. Even in case of living things, there will be certain movements which are invisible. We can say them molecular movements. We call them as molecular movements. So in a living system, there are so many molecules which are continuously moving, changing their form, and it is a dynamic system. There we find an organization. Various kinds of molecules are organized into different structures. All these structures, they make up a unit called cells. Cells are organized to tissues. Tissues are organized to organs. Organs are organized to organ system. Organ systems are organized into an organism. So this kind of a structure hierarchy is found in the living systems. So the molecular movements are very important to say that it is a living thing. And how are the molecular movements? And how are these molecules are arranged? In a systematic order. There is a hierarchy. And it is not standard or stable. It is dynamic. It is ever changing. Sometimes these structures, they get destroyed. So it need to be maintained, repaired. Some of the cells may be destroyed. So new cells are to be formed. Sometimes the cells may be damaged. So these cells are to be repaired. So this kind of system is existing in the living things. This is achieved by various processes. What is achieved? The maintenance. The repair and maintenance of these structures, it's keep on going in a living system. Once it stops, the repair and maintenance of these structures, the cells to tissues, tissues to organs, organ systems and organism, if it fails, it starts breakdown and the repair and maintenance is stopped, then the organism is dead. So the molecular movements are very important. And not only that, so if we find an organized system here, an organization is found. So this is what we can use to say that this is living and this is non-living. Scientists say that there are no molecular movements in virus. What do you say? Will you consider this virus as a living thing or non-living thing? So according to this, if you wanted to consider it as a living, a virus do not have any molecular movements unless until it enters a living system. Unless until it enters a living cell, it doesn't show any molecular movements. So what do you say? Living or non-living? So many people consider it is non-living as it is outside the living systems. It will be living, it will be considered as a living thing once it enters the living systems or cells. Because outside the cell, outside the living system, it's just a non-living thing. It doesn't possess any molecular movements. What are life processes? So here we have discussed about the main character by which we can distinguish what is living and non-living. So the living things, they have the basic feature. What is that? They have the movement of molecules, and these molecules, they make up the structures and organization. So this organization has to be kept there, and if it is destroyed, it has to be repaired and it has to be maintained. So for this maintenance, continuous flow of molecules is required. So how this movement of molecules takes place, how the supply of molecules takes place for this maintenance job. So whatever the organization is there, cells to tissues to organ system, organization, the organism. So the organism, it has to live. For the condition of life, for the condition of living, it has to be maintained continuously. The repairs has to be done. The needed energy has to be supplied. So this is the repair and maintenance job. It keeps on going on even though the organism is not doing anything in particular. Say for example, today is a holiday for you. So you're not doing any job over there. You're not going to school, you're not playing, just you're sitting in the sofa and watching TV. So just you're sitting or relaxing on the bed. Even then, you need energy. Even then, in your body, the life processes, they have to go on. In the sake of maintenance of your systems. So even though you're not doing any job, your systems are to be maintained and repairs has to be done. So even though you're not doing anything particular, that means your body needs supply of molecules for the process of maintenance. So your body needs energy. So from where these molecules are supplied to you, you get the continuous supply of molecules through your food. We call this life process the process by which the food, that is the chemical molecules that are supplied to the body for maintenance and growth, it is nutrition. So nutrition is the process in which you obtain the materials needed for your body, either for production of energy, either for growth, repair, maintenance and all such. So that is nutrition. Every living thing, it need to have the life process nutrition. Nutrition is a very important life process. One of the important life processes, because it is the main thing which supply the energy to your body in the form of molecules. So energy is present outside in the sun, solar energy. It is transformed to chemical energy in the form of food material, food substances, either fruits or vegetables or cereals or pulses, whatever you eat as food. So the food contains energy in the form of chemicals or molecules. By the process of nutrition, these molecules are taken in and the energy is released in your body and supplied for the different purposes like maintenance. So not only maintenance, growth is also required. When you are at a growth period, so we grow till certain age. So thereafter there will be a lot of maintenance in the body. Since you are growing up, you are a growing kid, in your body the bones are to be grown, muscles are to be grown and different things, blood vessels, nerves, everything. So all these need supply of molecules to grow. Most of our systems, many parts of our body and cells are made up of or built up of carbon molecules, carbon-based molecules. Hydrocarbons, fats, proteins, amino acids, and carbohydrates. All these are carbon-based molecules. So we need a continuous supply of carbon-based molecules from the environment. So this is done by the process of nutrition. So these raw materials are supplied to serve the first purpose is maintenance. That is the repair and maintenance of our body. That is the first one. For that purpose, energy is supplied in the form of chemical molecules. Second one is growth. So here we identified one life process, that is nutrition. So here we identified one important life process, that is nutrition. So nutrition in the sense the living things obtain the necessary materials from the environment. So that is called as nutrition. It includes how the organisms obtain their food, the molecules necessary for maintenance and growth. So that comes under nutrition. The food is available in different forms in the environment. The energy is available in the environment in different forms. Of course, our cells may need different form of energy, but the energy is present in another form in the outside world. So the transformation of energy has to take place. So we have eaten some food, fruits, vegetables, cereals, pulses. All these things, they contain so many molecules, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, these kind of different molecules. That is the chemical energy. But our cells, they need energy in the form of some other molecule, so-called ATPs. So a cell needs ATP, but you cannot directly eat ATPs from outside world. So by the process of nutrition, you have obtained something which is called as a protein, which is called as a carbohydrate, which is called as a amino acid. You cannot get ATPs directly. So your cells need ATPs to make energy. Your cells need ATPs for maintenance. Your cells need ATPs to produce energy. So whatever the molecules we take, they are to be converted into the form of energy which is needed by the cells for the movement of molecule in the cells. So this is done by another life process. We are taking food. Our food, the major part of our food is carbohydrates, which give energy. So you are eating carbohydrate, rice or wheat in the form of chapati or roti, rice in the form of steamed rice, along with some vegetables and other things. So the major part is carbohydrate. So this carbohydrate, it's a carbon-based compound. It gives energy. How it gives energy? This is achieved by another life process called as respiration. The second one, respiration. In this, the molecules like glucose are oxidized. Here the substances are oxidized and reduced to convert the molecules which you have taken as food into the form of energy. So energy is released from the food by a life process called as respiration. So we discussed that for the maintenance of life, for the maintenance of structures in a living system, various life processes are essential. So among those, we identified the first one is nutrition and the second one is respiration, in which different reactions like oxidation, reduction takes place to convert the molecules which we have taken as food into the energy, into the form which can be easily utilized by the cells. That is respiration. So we'll see what is this respiration, what are the different kinds, phases of respiration, what are the various steps and how the process of respiration takes place in the coming up sessions. We'll see what is that. But here we identified the second life process and its importance.